There are stories older than any scripture, myths whispered beneath the currents of human memory, tapestries woven from the hidden filaments of time itself. Atlantis and Lemuria, names that echo like incantations, do not belong solely to the past. They are living archetypes, crystalline reflections of what humanity has been and what it has yet to become. To speak of them is to summon a resonance, a frequency beneath language, where the divine feminine shimmers like a secret dawn waiting behind the veil. When you close your eyes and drift into the soft darkness behind thought, perhaps you can sense it, a long-lost memory of oceans that sang to the stars, of temples carved in luminous stone, of priestesses who once held the codes of balance and remembrance. These civilizations are not merely sunken continents, they are mirrors of the collective soul, fractals of consciousness that rose, bloomed, and fell, leaving behind only fragments enough to stir the heart into remembering what the mind has forgotten. Atlantis, with its towering citadels of crystalline technology and philosophies that married science with spirit, stands as a testament to the heights humanity can reach when intellect bows to the soul. Lemuria, softer and more fluid, was a garden of harmonic communion, a culture rooted in the sacred feminine principle, a remembering that all life is kin. Together, they form a polarity, a cosmic dialectic between mastery and surrender, conquest and compassion. In our age of disconnection, their stories surface like ancient signals calling us home, asking us to reclaim the lost marriage between the masculine and the feminine, the logical and the intuitive, the seen and the unseen. If you feel the gentle tug in your spirit as I speak, if you sense the veil thinning between who you are and what you once were, then this exploration is for you, because to awaken these memories is not an exercise in fantasy. It is an initiation into your own multidimensional nature, a remembering of your inheritance as a bridge between worlds. If this message stirs something in your heart, I invite you to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to journey deeper with me into the mysteries that wait beyond the familiar. To truly understand Atlantis and Lemuria and the divine feminine that weaves through their legacy, we must step beyond the tidy borders of historical timelines. These are not merely eras measured in carbon dating and archaeological fragments. They are consciousness fields, vast and enduring, layered over our reality like hidden currents beneath the visible sea. At the heart of both civilizations lay the recognition of an animating intelligence permeating all existence. Atlantis, in its golden age, was a civilization that explored the outer reaches of human potential. They built crystalline generators that harmonized with Earth's ley lines, encoded knowledge into geometric temples, and wielded sound and light to alter matter itself. But even amid such brilliance, they carried a hunger, a curiosity that could tip into arrogance. The Atlanteans came to embody the apex of the masculine impulse, to dissect, to dominate, to innovate without always listening to the quiet wisdom beneath creation. And yet, it was their mastery that set the foundation for much of what humanity would later rediscover in fragments: quantum principles, holographic consciousness, the blueprint of sacred geometry. Lemuria, by contrast, moved to a slower, gentler rhythm. Its people were dreamers, empathic stewards of the earth, who held the songs of whales and the codes of life in their very bones. Lemuria was an emanation of the divine feminine, in its purest form, nurturing, receptive, devoted to the interconnectivity of all beings. Where Atlantis looked outward to the stars, Lemuria looked inward to the soul's remembering. They understood that the universe is not an empty expanse to be conquered, but a living organism to be embraced. The divine feminine is the subtle thread that binds these two myths. It is the ocean of intuition and the soil of compassion, the capacity to dissolve the illusion of separateness and reawaken the heart's original knowing. When we speak of restoring the divine feminine today, we are not speaking only of gender, but of a principle, the rebalancing of the scales that have long tilted toward conquest, exploitation, and the worship of intellect severed from spirit. Some say that Atlantis fell because it abandoned the feminine, because the priests and scientists closed their ears to the oracles and priestesses who warned that the harmonics were fracturing. Lemuria, too, met its decline, though in a gentler dissolution, its people dispersing their wisdom like seeds into the ether, trusting that one day humanity would grow again into remembrance. If this message stirs something ancient in your soul, subscribe, because the next part of this series goes even deeper. There is a language older than any tongue, a lexicon of living symbols that speaks directly to the marrow of your being. Atlantis and Lemuria are not simply lost continents, but vast metaphors that reveal the cycles of human evolution, our rise, our fall, our inevitable return to wholeness. In Atlantis, you can see the spark of Prometheus, the luminous intellect, reaching beyond itself to harness the forces of creation. Imagine cities built from harmonics, their towers tuned to the frequencies of stars, libraries that glowed with liquid light, halls where thought itself sculpted reality. But with this brilliance came a forgetting, a fracture in the covenant between knowledge and wisdom. The Atlantean myth is the story of what happens when humanity becomes so entranced by its own reflection that it no longer hears the soft, cautionary whispers of the soul. And then, across the great oceanic expanse, Lemuria shimmered like a dream, the motherland, the place of first remembrance. Here, civilization unfolded like a garden rather than a machine. The Lemurians are said to have lived with an open telepathic communion, feeling the pulse of the earth as if it were their own heartbeat. They believed the physical world was only one octave of a multidimensional chorus, and their ceremonies were not merely ritual but attunement, aligning every cell to the music of creation. In this mythic landscape, the divine feminine was not an abstract ideal, but the very matrix of reality. The ocean itself was her body, the moon her eye watching over the tides of becoming. Consider the way these two myths meet in our psyche. Atlantis as the crystalline intellect that seeks to illuminate every shadow, Lemuria as the dreaming heart that dissolves all division. When they are in balance, humanity moves in harmony with the great laws of the cosmos. When they fall out of balance, when the masculine drive to control overtakes the feminine wisdom to receive the civilization, begins to fragment. This pattern is not merely a tale of the past, but an allegory for every life, every culture, every moment in which we forget the primordial union. And yet, the stories never end with finality. The Atlantean priestesses, those who kept the flame of the feminine alive, are said to have encoded their knowledge into the crystalline grids of Earth. The Lemurian elders, too, are whispered to have woven their frequencies into the DNA of humanity, so that one day, when the cycle turned again, we would remember how to become whole. If this message stirs something ancient in your soul, subscribe, because what comes next reveals even more. If these stories seem distant, like pale echoes from some dream long forgotten, it is only because modern life has trained us to look outward, to seek validation and meaning in the clamor of the visible world. Yet, the legacies of Atlantis, Lemuria, and the divine feminine are not artifacts to be excavated from the ocean floor. They are living energies, currents flowing through your consciousness in this very moment. To remember them is to activate a deeper dimension of perception, to begin listening not just with your mind, but with the quiet intelligence in your heart and body. The Atlantean impulse lives within you every time you hunger to learn, to master a skill, to push the edges of what is known. It is your gift as a creator, your capacity to imagine, to build, to innovate. But when this impulse becomes disconnected from the feminine, it becomes a blade with no handle, a force that slices away empathy in the pursuit of achievement. To honor the Atlantean within you is to integrate its brilliance with humility, to ask whether your ambitions arise from the soul's purpose or the ego's hunger to be significant. The Lemurian remembrance is subtler, less concerned with form and more with feeling. It is the quiet knowing that you are woven into a web of life, so vast you could never stand apart from it. You feel it in those moments when you hold a gaze just a moment longer and realize there is no other, only the one peering through countless eyes. You feel it in the way your breath synchronizes with the sound of waves, or how your heart softens when you touch the earth with bare hands. Integrating Lemurian consciousness means allowing yourself to slow down, to trust the intelligence of your intuition, to feel more than you analyze. This is the alchemy our age requires, not to discard the gifts of Atlantis or to retreat entirely into Lemurian dreaming, but to braid them together into a single, luminous strand. You practice this each time you bring presence to your relationships, when you allow silence to be as valued as speech, when you balance action with surrender. Even in the smallest gestures, choosing to listen rather than to argue, to rest rather than to strive, to forgive rather than to condemn, you begin to restore the covenant that these two great civilizations held in their earliest flowering, the understanding that mastery and compassion are never meant to be separate. Perhaps the most practical implication of these stories is this: you are a living continuum of all that has ever been. Your very cells contain the echoes of those who came before, their victories and mistakes, their visions and blind spots. To awaken the memory of Atlantis and Lemuria is to acknowledge that you are not only a descendant of their stories, but an active participant in the next unfolding. The question becomes, will you carry forward the imbalance that led to their decline, or will you choose a new synthesis, one that honors both the precision of knowledge and the sanctuary of the heart? Perhaps you can feel it now, that subtle shimmer behind your thoughts, the almost tangible sense that you have walked this path before. Atlantis and Lemuria are more than myths. They are sacred mirrors reflecting what humanity can become when it remembers its wholeness. To speak their names is to invoke a lineage of souls who once lived in conscious harmony with the universe, who wove light into form not for dominion but for devotion. In these times of fracture and noise, the call to remember has never been more urgent. Each day, you are offered the same choice that faced the high councils of Atlantis and the dreaming circles of Lemuria: to create from fear or from love, to dominate or to nurture, to forget or to remember. The divine feminine is rising again, not as a rejection of the masculine, but as its long-awaited companion ready to heal the wound of separation that has kept humanity circling the same patterns of rise and fall. If you feel the resonance in your bones, know that it is not accidental. You are part of the generation that carries the codes of restoration. It is in your presence, your attention, your daily choices that the balance is rekindled. You do not have to renounce the world or retreat to mountain caves to live this remembrance. You need only begin to see through the eyes of the heart, to honor the intelligence of the body, to trust the quiet voice that speaks beneath the clamor of thought, to hold yourself and others with the tenderness of a being who knows that all is ultimately one. Perhaps you will close your eyes tonight and sense the waters of Lemuria lapping at your feet, the crystalline towers of Atlantis shimmering just beyond the veil. These are not fantasies, but ancestral memories, echoes of the soul's long journey through time. Let them remind you that you are ancient and infinite, and that within you sleeps a light no flood or fire can ever extinguish. If you take anything from this exploration, let it be this: the forgotten light in you is remembering. Don't turn away now. If this message has moved something inside you, I invite you to share your reflections in the comments below. Subscribe for deeper explorations into the mysteries that wait just beyond the familiar. And if you know someone on the path of awakening, share this message so that together we may weave the remembrance back into the world.